Previously on MetaZoo. A man from the shadows, injured cold, meets up with his old friend, the cryptid Mothman, and after 1,000 years, the veil is finally shattered, causing a catastrophe around the world. In Point Pleasant, West Virginia, two best friends, Sam and Adam, are winning their baseball game, using their powers of intuition. Some could say superpowers, but that would be too cliché. And at that very moment, catastrophe strikes when the shattering of the veil unleashes magic everywhere. Years later, Sam and Adam, adopted by a man named M, a man made of magic, are in high school. Sam has a girlfriend, Rose, and one morning on his way to school is attacked by bullies. Adam saves Sam, coming to his rescue. Unfortunately, Sam also discovers that Adam, his best friend, and Rose, his girl, will be leaving him to attend Quimble's School of Gifted Magic Users without Sam. And now, on MetaZoo, Cryptid Nation. Sam had recently found himself sneaking out from his bedroom window and scaling the gutter in order to investigate a puzzling development. The cloak and daggers was a necessity born from the fact that Sam wasn't allowed out past dusk. Unless, of course, he trained how to cast with M, something Sam still stubbornly refused to do. The puzzling development was that the level of spirit activity on the outskirts of Point Pleasant had multiplied tenfold in the past 2 weeks. Now, M and the other local casters had put up barriers around Point Pleasant that prevented spirits and the more powerful cryptids from entering city limits, and these barriers were powerful. Many towns were not so lucky, and for cities that were built on the buried corpses of sometimes millions of people, the shattering of the veil released armies of spirits onto the world that were impossible to exorcise. As a result, many larger cities were abandoned, and even smaller towns required powerful casters to create magical countermeasures. The rest of the U.S. population resorted to a nomadic lifestyle, moving from place to place until too many friends and loved ones died, making the presence of spirits once again unbearable. Point Pleasant was no exception, and following the shattering of the veil, the resulting explosion there were certainly enough spirits wandering around to make life less than comfortable. However, with the help of M, who handled the awakening of his powers almost suspiciously well, the small town of Point Pleasant had successfully installed a magical barrier only 3 days after the veil shattered. In the months that followed, many of the surviving residents would visit the barrier that bordered the town in an attempt to see if they could spot a loved one in the crowd of spirits. This practice led to one too many suicides and attempts to improperly cross the barrier. Only 6 months after the veil shattered, the Council of Casters created by M cast a series of spells that removed the spirits' faces and obscured their voices. The spirits passed once again into the background of daily life, ever present, but more like features of the town's outer landscape than something people had to actively worry about. But something had changed. More and more spirits had appeared at the barrier in the past several weeks, but this wasn't what was most troubling. What was most troubling was the fact that some of these spirits had crossed the barrier and would be found wandering the forests of Point Pleasant. When Sam probed M for the potential causes of this, especially since M himself had put the barrier in place, M responded with a textbook explanation. "Sam, all the barriers are veils themselves, and there are many types of veils. These veils are usually meant to obscure something or keep something out, or outright remove it from what we define as existence. In fact, the ability for a caster to form a contract with a cryptid and summon it and dismiss it at will is done by enveloping it in a compact veil that's stored in their spellbook." But Sam, who had heard this a million times in various classes, news reports, books, and other forms of exposition, was trying to make another point. Sam's notes on Point Pleasant, May 10th, 2031.
M was smarter than people gave him credit for. The act of erasing both voice and face had unexpected events that I believe scientists will be studying for years to come. Spirit's presence in our world is the result of recognition from living humans, especially those that knew them in their mortal lives. By removing the very features that gave them their identity, many of the spirits would weaken and pass from this realm into the next, essentially exercising themselves over time.
Will Sam discover the strange changes of the veil's barrier that M put in place to obscure the spirits? Find out next time on MetaZoo, Cryptid Nation.